Hey, my name is Joe,
And I'm Mary Beth.
and this is the best of Gen X.
We are in our 40s.
And we're siblings,
We'll talk about adulting in a world so different from the one we grew up in,
so excuse us while we save a generation.
one episode at a time.
Let's go.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Mary Beth.
How's it going?
Well, can I speak my truth?
Please.
I have the world's worst ear clog situation going on with my right ear. I woke up with it clogged. It's the bad one, so it gets clogged pretty often. But I have spent all day pouring warm water, mineral oil, hydrogen peroxide, a couple Q-tips. Didn't put them all the way in.
Did you stop when you felt resistance?
I've used the bubble syringe,
Yes.
or whatever you call that. So I've really literally tried everything except jumping off a bridge or, walking in front of a running car or something. Everything except that.
I'm sorry to laugh, but I understand how you feel.
Yeah. So if I'm speaking too loud today, you're gonna have to do some editing magic because I can't hear anything. I have no idea how loud I'm talking. I can't control the volume of my voice.
You actually sound kind of soft.
Okay. I'm probably doing that on purpose.
You could be louder.
But I have my game face on. I'm excited about today because this is going to be really, really fun.
Should be.
And Beyonce came out with Cowboy Carter, so we should all be excited.
We should. This ain't Texas.
Hey, opposite day.
Hey, cultural appropriation.
Care. Okay.
I need to speak my truth.
Oh, hit me with it.
Look, I have had a really hard time since our last episode.
Okay.
I made a blunder. Terrible one.
Oh, why would you do that? You're awful at this.
Man, right out of the gate, too. And I was so excited to talk about The Social Network on our Facebook episode because it's literally one of my favorite movies, and I've seen it I don't know how many times.
I know, you said top 3.
Hey, I know the cast. In fact, when I was typing up my notes that morning, I didn't even have to look it up. The only thing I had to look up was to make sure I was right about certain awards that they had won. And I called him Gardner, not Garfield. What the hell?
And you remember my response was like, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. I know that guy. Like, I didn't know it well enough to
Well, I called him that twice, I think.
tell you otherwise.
And then a couple minutes later, I do say
you
his name
you
correctly.
said it correctly.
But I didn't even catch myself on the moment. That's the worst part. So I've wanted to unalive myself like all week.
Okay, so do you think that compares to the AC Slater, leaving off AC Slater of my character breakdown of Saved by the Bell? I mean, which is worse?
I'm more forgiving of that because, as I told you before, no worries. Right after that, you go into talking about your favorite character, which is AC Slater.
I'll tell you what.
But you had a hard time with that.
I had like new moon. I had like Twilight, new moon, Bella Swan nightmares about that one. Like I was.
There's a possibility.
Hey, I was screaming myself awake. My dog was like, "What's happening?" Did you like that reference? I knew you'd appreciate that.
I love that reference. I'm a Twilight mom.
And I didn't even
anyone
just say,
doesn't know.
The best part was I didn't even just say Twilight. I said Twilight, New Moon. I gave you exactly which one it was from.
Joe, I'm proud.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of that.
Thank you.
Well, I want to give a shout out again to Carmen. We gave her a shout out last episode and asked if she had any ideas for a topic. And today,
She pulled through.
she pulled through, man. She said, why not talk about the things we did, like during playtime? And I was like, man, there's a lot to talk about.
the things we did.
Oh, the things we did. So that is what we'll be talking about today. It's 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. Do you know where your kids are? Ask a parent that question today, and not only will they know where their kids are, but they'll probably be with their child, engaged in some fun game or imaginary play, or sitting on the sidelines at the soccer field. No, not watching their child's game, watching them practice, or driving them to and fro from one scheduled sport or activity to another. But asking a parent in the 80s if they knew where their kids were, you might get a response like, oh, they're around here somewhere. Or even better, we have kids? That's right, folks. Parents were not there to entertain us. Yet boredom was not allowed. We were told, go play. And play we did. From sun up to sundown, it was up to us to navigate the sexual politics of the playground. Not to mention the deadly equipment. Avoid pervy strangers in white vans, attempt death-defying stunts on our bikes and swing sets, and still manage to make it home alive in time for dinner. Today, you'll hear about some of those adventures from the Gen X adults who somehow survived life as free-range kids.
Hey.
Slow clap.
And by the way,
Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, how many pervy vans did you experience as being white as a kid? Aren't they mostly black? Aren't the pervy vans mostly black?
Well-
all the ones that I experienced as a child were black.
All the ones.
Yeah.
Well, obviously the running joke is in our culture is the white van, white van with no windows.
Always trying to be positive, Mary Beth. Never trying to be dark.
Trying to be dark.
The perv vans were black. Continue. Move on.
Maybe perhaps they were. Well, so a couple of disclaimers. Since we were born in 78 and 80, we'll be sharing personal experiences as kids in like the mid 80s, early 90s. And so this predates the cruising that we could have done later, or that we actually did do later, but doesn't necessarily leave out those particularly cruise-worthy locations, right? So like the movie theater and the mall. And it also puts us just shy of the Star Wars craze, which ironically is what really launched the whole action figure business models we know today. But speaking of Star Wars, you have the Star Wars action figures and all the merch, the Simon game, and Atari. And those actually dominated the toy game in the late 70s. So I just wanted to put our age in a little bit of context here for some of the older Gen Xers who were like, hey, you're not talking about Star Wars. We were kind of just too young.
Yeah, I mean, that like you said, that mid-'80s was kind of like our prime time.
Yeah, man.
I always for whatever reason, nothing specific, but when I think about the 80s, 1987 just kind of seemed like the year. Don't know why.
That's interesting.
A lot of good movies that year, I think, but I don't know. I felt like I was 6 or 7 years old and just had the most fun in that year for whatever reason. I always think about 1987 being the year of the 80s.
Interesting, because I always think of 1985.
Really?
In either case, we would have been 7 years old.
Right, exactly.
Must be that
Interesting.
age.
That's the age, I think.
Must be the age.
See how we did that?
Well, here's a little bit of toy history for you. I would love to cover games as well, but as I got into it, it's like you could do a whole episode on toys. You could do a whole episode on games.
We could do a whole board game episode.
You could do a whole episode on nothing but the things we did without those things, because that's what Gen X kids did. We had to make up a lot of our own stuff. So, but I thought this was interesting. Have you ever heard of Pester Power?
No, Pester Power, no.
Well, I thought it made sense that I had never heard of it because I was in education for most of my professional life. And even in the private sector now, I don't work for a company that sells or caters to young people or families necessarily. But Pester Power, otherwise known as the nag factor. So this is very real, and it works with advertisers. And this is basically a kid whining for something so much that the parents eventually give in. And so manufacturers know this Pester Power helps to drive a majority of a family's purchases. Interesting. Dining out, grocery shopping, and even vacations are determined by kids at least 80% of the time. Who is in charge?
Okay, name the categories again.
Dining out,
grocery
shopping, and even vacations are determined by kids at least 80% of the time in a family household.
Do you buy that?
Good question. You know me, I had to cross-reference. And I looked up on a couple of different websites, one from 2018, one from 2023, and they both were in the late 70 percentile range, which I thought was pretty fascinating, especially considering we didn't get a say.
No. That's why I asked.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't like just 1980s or Gen X kids specifically, and I honestly can't believe it applies to our generation.
I wouldn't think so.
I think it's definitely a now thing.
Yeah. I can tell the listeners that Pester Power did not work in the Ledbetter household.
It did not.
Especially like if we were at a toy store or some type of store and that power did not work.
And yet, oddly enough, we didn't feel like our world was caving in. Like tantrums weren't allowed. we were bummed, but we got over it. We were pretty
Yeah, it
resilient.
was like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
But we stayed plenty busy.
Oh my gosh.
We always had stuff to do at the house.
Always had some. I don't remember boredom even being a
Yeah,
thing.
and even if it wasn't like an item, we fantasized and we used
pretended.
we used our imaginations.
And especially if you had siblings. I can't imagine for an only child what it must
yeah,
have
that
been
might
like.
be tough.
But we had each other and our sister, and there was never nothing to do.
Yeah, we
you
just
know?
used us on the ground, used stuff that was laying on the ground or
Yeah.
around the garage or something.
So I just thought that was interesting, and it caught my attention because I reflected back and was like, we didn't get a say about nothing.
Do I feel like that works today? Yeah, absolutely.
I feel it today.
100%.
A show.
Faux show.
Okay, so I also wanted to know what the top selling toys were in the 1980s.
Oh, this should be good. I could probably guess some of them, but go ahead.
Would you like to take a guess?
I have to believe like He-Man. It's probably one.
It's not on the top seller
Okay.
list.
Okay.
Well, I went top seller by year. So if it wasn't like the top seller in 1984, it maybe was number 2.
Okay.
This is according to the list
All right.
that
Well, tell me how it is then.
Okay, so I went by year. So in 1980, it was the Rubik's Cube.
I didn't really get into that so much.
I don't remember even owning one, but
No,
I
I don't think
remember
I did
being
either.
endlessly fascinated anytime someone had a Rubik's Cube. I was determined to solve it and frustrated
yeah, I got bored
as
with it. I think that the first time I ever tried it as a kid, I got bored with it.
I didn't get bored with it. I got mad at it, angry. It made me feel dumb.
It's rigged. This cube is rigged.
1981, Smurfs.
I mean, they had their own show.
They had their own show. Fun fact. Another thing I didn't realize is that a lot of the action figures and TV shows, you would think that the universe itself existed first. But no, a lot of these in the 80s, the toy came first, then the show.
Is that the case with Smurfs?
I don't know if it's the case with Smurfs, but I know it was the case with like Rainbow Bright, and I think the Care Bears was another one.
Okay.
He-Man was another.
He-Man. Yeah,
The action
Care
figures
Bears.
came first.
Oh, I love the Care Bears show. And I was always in a trance when I would see them like living in mushrooms. I was like, that is so cool. I want to live in a mushroom too.
The Smurfs?
Yeah.
I wanted to live.
I thought it was so cool.
I wanted to live as a Smurf.
I did too.
It looked so magical.
I did. I'm
And
with you
still
there.
to this day, when we drive around like local subdivisions that are more historic, they've got that cottage. If they have a cottage look to them, ivy growing up, and I think that comes from the shows we watched as kids that just were so magical.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, 1982, it was My Little Pony. I had My Little Pony. You didn't have My Little Pony.
I did not.
But today, it has made a comeback with men. I don't know that we need to really discuss
No.
that.
No, we don't.
I don't want to pull at that thread.
Yeah, Rainbow Dash, I'm guessing.
I don't know. Okay, 1983. This was a biggie. Cabbage Patch Kids.
Those are insanely popular.
This was, I believe, the first shopping craze where lines of people running out of the product, stores were running out. They were overcharging because the demand was, was so high, and it was so coveted. The Christmas shopping season of 1983 was dangerous. People were mauling each other.
Yeah, it was insanely popular. Crazy.
And yeah.
And they had boy ones. I remember having a football one, the football player one.
Yes, and I remember when we got the Cabbage Patch Kids. It was not for birthday, it was not for Christmas. That's how in demand they were and how hard they were to get. And they weren't cheap. I mean, they were supposed to retail for like $25, which you have 3 kids and each kid gets one. It's not cheap. But some stores were doubling their price to like $50. I remember being at Grandma Doris's house. It must have been 1984. I guess Grandma or someone had told Grandma that they were at the mall. Mm-hmm. And I want to say Dillard's, but I know it wasn't Dillard's. It must have been Bacon's. Mm-hmm. I remember Mom finding this out. I remember I can see her reaction in my mind. I can see her and hear her going, "Oh my God." She grabbed her purse. We all hopped in the Buick. And I remember her flying down 65. Flying. We got to the store and we each got a Cabbage Patch doll. I don't know if they were on sale or if they were in stock. Either way,
Yeah.
Mom, it was just like in the middle of the year, like nothing special. And we did not get anything like that unless it was a special occasion. So that was a huge deal. That's
Yeah.
how in demand these things
Safety be damned. Get in the Buick, kids.
Kid in the Buick. Yeah. Don't use your seatbelt. Seatbelt's optional.
Yeah.
Back when cars were more like potential child blenders.
Oh, my Lord.
We could have just been, yeah. How did we make it? 1984. You'll like this? The Transformers.
I do. Obviously, I do like that. As a young man, that was one of my favorite toys, Optimus Prime.
What was Optimus Prime?
He was the semi.
That's what I
You know,
thought.
the red-bodied semi with the blue head.
Yes.
Oh, man, that was like, if you had the Optimus Prime toy, I mean, it literally looked like a red semi, and it transformed into, gosh.
A bot.
That was it, man. But if you had that, you were king on your street. Yeah. So Fern Street, I was thought highly of on Fern
Optimus
Street.
Prime.
Yeah.
The next one was a little, I don't know how I feel about this one. So this would be 1985. This would be Teddy Ruxpin.
Ruxpin?
Yeah.
Eh,
He creeped me out.
yeah, I didn't really get into. I had a couple neighbors that had one, so I kind of got my feel of it then, and I was fine with it. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't really need it, but pretty cool.
I remember
Pretty cool to see.
I remember thinking it was cool at first. I don't remember having one, but I do remember interacting with one and being a little creeped out. I mean, because when you think about it, this was really the first doll that spoke to you.
Yeah, it was like Ted before Ted.
Right.
So what? So that was like the shtick of it, right? Is like he just spoke.
Well, he came with books, so he would tell different stories, and you could follow along the book.
You're right. Yeah.
That must have been my problem with it. That must have been, it lost appeal once I realized he can't actually carry on a real conversation.
Yeah.
How are you? Well, I'm having a bad day, Teddy. Great.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Right.
You're a fraud.
Yeah. Can you tell me about Einstein's theory of relativity, please?
Okay, 1986 would have been G.I. Joe. And they weren't new, obviously, but they kind of had a comeback. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they had the show and...
Yeah, it was big. I got into that a little bit, but for me, it was too basic. I felt like I think they were just the green army looking guys.
Yeah.
Like it just wasn't. There wasn't a whole lot to it. It was kind of like a Teddy Ruxpin thing. It was like you kind of set them down on the ground. And you're like, now what? No. Like, they're just kind of standing there in like a pose with like a machine gun. You're like, now what?
Yeah, I don't remember seeing a whole lot of them around the house. Okay, now the last three, so we're talking about 87, 88, and 89. These surprised me because it seemed like we went from, Cabbage Patch Kids and then did a jump to mid-90s. It didn't make sense to me. The next one was Jenga, which I thought came out later.
Yeah, I did too. I thought that was more like an early mid-90s.
I do too. Apparently not.
Okay, well maybe that's just when it caught on. Must have.
Or maybe we got a yard sale version of Jenga in the mid-90s.
It was so new to us. This is new and interesting.
And that maybe it's just my personality, but I was not interested in a game that could cause such destruction. Mm. All that work just to see it like collapse.
Demolish, you're like, yeah, that's too much work.
No.
Yeah.
Then in 88...
If you're a clean freak, Jenga wasn't the game for you.
Jenga was not the game for me. Yeah. The next one was a koosh ball.
Oh, okay. So you got remind me. I remember the name of it.
It's just a koosh ball.
So is it the squishy? You just hold it, or?
I mean, it was, but it was not. It wasn't like a stress ball that was squishy. It was. Was
it like slimy kind of?
No, it looked like a little pom pom.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean.
Was it squishy? I guess it was.
Isn't that the one where you if you squeeze it, it like pops out on the other end, like it has like a bubble that comes out on the other end, like it just was a.
I don't think so, because if you looked it up. I mean, it was all like little strings.
Okay. Yeah. I remember. I remember the name of it for sure.
But I don't remember the point of them. And then in 1989, the Game Boy came out.
Mm-hmm.
But see, those, again.
I had Game Boy.
Jenga, Koosh Ball, Game Boy, I thought those were like 90s.
Yeah,
more 90s.
I can't remember if I had Game Boy before the actual Nintendo. I feel like I would have.
Yeah, I think we would have.
But I don't remember getting the actual Nintendo until '89 Christmas. But I was like 3 or 4 years behind all my friends on Nintendo, the real game.
Well, when you had
gaming system.
Atari, who needed Nintendo, honestly?
But Atari just got no fun for me because I was just beating everything so easily. I was scoring too many points.
You were becoming master of the universe.
Yeah, we can get into Galaga at some point.
Galaga.
Yeah, but yeah,
Didn't we called it something else?
Galaga.
We called it Galaga.
Yeah, I think me and Dustin have debated and argued about that. And he tells me he can beat me in that. I'm like, no, you can't.
Dustin was the one who told us, because he came over when we were really into that game, and he was like, what did he say? Galaga? It's Galaga. And then we were like, wait a minute, Galaxy? Galaga? What the hell is wrong with us?
Eat your fudge round, Dustin. Eat your damn fudge round and be quiet.
So we had to like get used to the new name because we were pronouncing it wrong like idiots.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember why. But yeah, you were really into that. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. All right, so those are the top selling toys.
Well, kind of going backwards, so that we were talking about cartoons or shows and toys. Like, while I didn't have G.I. Joes, I mean, I probably had a few, but the show was excellent. I really did like the show.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, the show I thought was really, really good. But the action figure, like my enjoyment of the show did not translate well into the playing with the basic toy.
Right.
But the show I thought was really good.
That makes sense. Well, let's talk about what we did have.
Okay.
I mean, the ones I remember most were like, obviously the Cabbage Patch Kid, but I remember the Light Bright. Light Bright.
That's the one with the board, and it was like fluorescent or whatever. Or you turn the light off, and it was like...
It was like Christmas.
Yeah, and you put the little pegs into the board and made a picture and stuff. Yeah.
And then Rainbow Bright and a glowworm and the Etch-a-Sketch.
Did we have the glowworms? I don't remember.
I don't remember having. I think my best friend had a glowworm.
Yeah, I was going to say it was one of those things where we talked earlier about the Teddy Ruxpin. It's like friends had it.
Yes.
We didn't have it, so I got my feel of it, but I don't remember us ever owning one.
Okay, so maybe I didn't have a glowworm. I just remember them. And then I know Jen had an Etch-a-Sketch, and we fought over that. Mm-hmm. Etch-a-Sketch is really evil. It made you feel like, look, you can create anything. We couldn't create anything on the Etch-a-Sketch.
You can't create the Mona Lisa like Buddy the Elf does. You can't create like cursive, like calligraphy type. What the hell?
I couldn't even write anything.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't even write Joe.
I know.
I was so frustrated with that. Etch-a-Sketch just frustrated me.
It is. Etch-a-Sketch to me is always the same as rubbing your belly and patting yourself on the head. That's what the Etch-a-Sketch experience is like. Try to do it. You can't.
Yeah. It's like, even if you try to like connect a letter to another letter, like you had to go back and it made this like weird looking line and it's like, that doesn't look right. Didn't
you have to shake it to like clear? I think you had to shake it all up to get it to clear.
I thought it didn't. I thought it had that little dial thing that you went back and forth and it cleared it. No? Am I thinking of something else?
I don't know. Maybe
remember
you're right.
It had that little white dial. I thought it had that white dial on the bottom.
I got Andrew Garfield wrong. I don't know anything.
God, you're so stupid. I can't even believe I'm podcasting with you now.
I know. Okay, so riding bikes was a huge thing. And FYI,
huge.
I should say, I did put out a feeler on Facebook. And so a lot of these were people reminding me, because I couldn't remember it all by myself. And I got some great feedback from people. So riding bikes was probably the most popular.
100%.
I don't remember Mallory riding a bike. I remember getting her a bike. I remember her riding it a little bit, but it wasn't a big deal. Did your kids get bikes? Was that?
Yeah, we did the bikes thing for a little bit. A funny story, when Bryson was 3, he had turned 3 in late February. By mid-March, I got a phone call. His mom called me while I was at work, and she said, guess what your son is doing? I said, what? She said, he's riding his bike down the hill in the middle of the street. And I was like, okay. I just thought he'd had his training wheels on. And she said, without the training wheels. He asked me to take the training wheels off.
Ooh, big boy.
He was 3 in 3 weeks and was riding without training wheels.
I can see that. Mm-hmm. He was
no
a little,
fear.
Yeah.
So we did that and I bought an adult one. I think she had one just to ride around the neighborhood. But Navy rode hers a little bit, but it kind of fizzled once they were like 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, because by that time they each had their own little screen.
Right.
Why leave the house?
Right, but anybody who's anybody back then had a bike.
You had to have a bike.
Yeah.
It was your only way
It was your
around.
independence.
It got you out of the house. It got you like off your street. You get to explore the neighborhood, especially if you come from a small town.
Yeah. You felt older and more independent. Like, I thought I was like on a motorcycle.
Didn't have to ask mom and dad. Take you to a friend's house.
Are we going to go more into bikes?
We can.
Well, because we had the banana seat bikes.
Everybody talked about the banana seats.
And the seat always made me feel like I was riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So I'm like going to my buddy's house. I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm on a Harley or something.
Yeah.
It was rad. I had the red one.
I think mine was blue.
Yours was baby blue. I think Jennifer's was yellow.
It may have been. And I remember there was a large hill down our street, and it was pretty steep. And I remember racing down and falling. Yeah. But we'll talk about that later. Okay. We'll talk about battle wounds.
Okay.
But bikes were the thing. They were the way to get around.
I had a Care Bear bike too, by the way.
Tell me about that. Why in the world did you have a Care Bear? How did that happen?
Well, I was 5, so obviously I didn't purchase it.
But how did it happen?
How did I get one?
Yeah.
Okay, here's technically how it happened, Mary Beth. We were at our grandparents', our mom's mom and dad, for Christmas, and our grandpa Fred walked it through the living room floor as like, hey, here's your gift. Everybody had to like play like they didn't know, but everybody knew. And I got my Care Bear bike at Grandpa's house, and he rolled it through the living room with like a bow on it.
And you liked it?
I liked it because it was a bike. It was baby blue, and it had the Care Bears on it.
Do you remember, though, liking it as a kid? Like,
yeah.
Care Bears.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I was 5. It's not like you know what I mean?
The reason I'm surprised is because I don't remember you having a Care Bear bike. And
yeah. I only had it for like a year, and then we had the banana seat bikes. So that was like my first real bike was without training wheels was the Care Bear bike. I was 5 years old.
Okay.
But it was blue, Mary Beth.
It was blue.
So it was fine. It was fine.
I'm sorry.
It fit whatever my gender was for that particular moment in time.
It certainly wouldn't matter these days now, would it? I just couldn't remember that.
Yep, Care Bear, baby blue.
Well, Barbies were a big thing. I had to look up the Barbies of the 80s. I had the crystal Barbie because I remember the gown she wore. I remember Jen had peaches and cream Barbie.
I remember that one.
Yeah. And then...
Don't ask me how.
Well, now I got to ask you how.
No, I just do, but I'm trying to pretend like I didn't say that. I just do, that I remembered it.
And then there was Tropical Barbie came out. And I remember that Jen had this Barbie pool, and it was like a spa because there was this thing you could push to make the bubbles in the pool go. So they had like a jacuzzi action going. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But yeah, Barbies were a staple.
Mm-hmm. Made a comeback.
And if you really wanted to hurt someone, you mess with their Barbie.
Oh yeah, that
pull
was
her head off.
Sacred.
Mark on her face.
Did y'all have the Ken dolls?
I do remember,
I remember how deep you guys got into the Barbie.
We
craze.
did have a Ken doll, but we never had the Barbie Dream House or I don't remember if we had the Barbie car. I know friends had,
Yeah,
I remember playing with them.
Our parents were always like, "You'll get the figure, then shut the hell up.
Yeah.
You're not getting the house, the car, the pet.
They are homeless.
Yeah, you're not getting the pet." Yeah. Meanwhile, you go to all these friends' houses and they have like full basements full of like houses and cars.
Right.
And
yeah, I don't remember having like playhouses and things like that.
We were not spoiled.
Let's see. And if you had a brother, like I did, you also enjoyed his toys.
You remember any of mine?
I do. Dude, we were all about He-Man.
I had the entire He-Man set. Now, I just sat there and complained that we only got figurines. 2 seconds later, I'm going to tell everybody that's listening, I had the entire He-Man set. That was one thing that was non-negotiable.
Not just that. You had the very thing that gave He-Man his power, which was the Castle Grayskull.
Yeah, I had Castle Grayskull. I had Skeletor's castle. I had the vehicles. I had the flying green thing that had the two
you had both.
Yeah, I had both castles. I had the Panther. I had Skeletor's Panther.
You did.
I had the He-Man
Tiger.
I had the there was like a flying contraption that He-Man flew in.
Yes.
The green thing with like their orange rocket things in the back.
Yeah.
I had that.
Do you remember his name?
What the?
He-Man's actual name, like before he turned into He-Man.
Wasn't that Adam?
It was Adam. Yeah. Good for you. Dude, I had to look it up.
Yeah, it was Adam.
Now, this was another franchise that started with the toys and then became the cartoon, which only ran for 2 years. I remember watching it on Saturday mornings
It's very powerful.
And just reading the names, like I'm on Wikipedia reading the character names and going, it was Adam. Oh my gosh, I forgot that he transformed into He-Man.
Yeah, I had that.
When he grabbed the sword.
Yeah, so I had the by the power of Grayskull.
Oh my God.
I have the power.
power.
So I had the Adam
Wow.
doll, and so I would put him in front of the castle of Grayskull, and I would do the whole bit. And then when I was ready to turn him into He-Man, I would have He-Man in the other hand, and I would switch it. I would switch it. But I had everything. I had like all the supporting cast. I had all of those. And I want to tell you something.
Okay.
I love our mother.
Yes.
I mean, I love her more than anything in this world. But I will never forgive that fateful day when I was like 7 years old. And I said, where's all my He-Man stuff? And Mom said, we sold it in the yard sale.
Oh my God.
Mary Beth, I'll make another Twilight reference. You want to make another Twilight reference?
Please.
When Jacob imprints and he goes to his knees. Hey, I'm breaking Dawn too. I literally went down on my knees and I was like,
Why did she do that?
yeah. So
You had to be older than 7 because
we were still at the Fern Street house.
Okay.
So at most I was 8.
Oh my gosh.
Because we moved into the house after that in November of '87. So I was still 7.
Mother.
We still have trouble with each other to this day. It's a little touchy. Don't bring that up around me and her when we're together because I go straight back to that. I still have.
Oh my God.
Mom, I love you, but I still haven't forgiven you
The
for that.
He-Man kerfuffle.
Yeah.
Circa 1987.
Yeah, on Thursday, I'm going to visit Mom and Dad in Florida, and I will bring this up.
Oh my God. Oh, I don't remember that happening. Of course, it
Actually,
didn't traumatize me.
do you have a Kleenex?
That's traumatizing. I didn't know.
You're going to need a second.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
I talked about Optimus Prime. That was a big one. I had a big wheel.
Yes.
You remember? Did you ever ride my big
I
wheel?
absolutely did. And the key was always to go as fast as you could,
And
then spin.
Yes.
Yeah.
The spin out.
Yeah.
So the big wheel was big, Big wheel was popular. I had the Dukes of Hazzard car, the toy car, and I think it was just Mattel. It wasn't anything kind of special, but it was just, I think.
Like Hot Wheels?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so exactly. So Hot Wheels. So like most of the boys my age had the Dukes of Hazzard car, and they had the Roscoe police car.
Yes.
So I loved.
I remember
playing.
those.
So when the show would come on and the theme music would come on at the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, dun, dun, dun. I get my car out and I build like a little ramp in the living room. I'm like, here we go. Yeah. Woo! So I would like do it along with the show's theme song. Like when the car went up, I'd go up. I had the Alf doll, so the show Alf.
We have mentioned him before.
Okay, yes.
May he rest in peace.
Yes, he ended up being my wrestling buddy. I made my own wrestling buddy. I didn't make Mom and Dad go out and buy a wrestling buddy. I made my own. And then I had, of course, the Atari and then the Nintendo. So we talked about that.
Oh my gosh.
Pole Position. You had Galaga. You had Centipede.
Yes.
Those are the main ones I remember.
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
I don't think we ever had it, but I remember playing at a friend's
Donkey
house.
Kong.
Frogger.
Frogger. We didn't have Frogger.
We didn't have it, but I played it at my friend's
and
house.
I want to say I might get the name wrong, but I want to say Pitfall.
I don't remember.
Pitfall kind of looked like an old computer, and maybe it was a computer game. I thought it was an Atari game, but anyway, it kind of looked like an old library computer game, like an Oregon Trail type game. Mm-hmm. But it was like the little person would have to like get on the swing and have to like go over like the swamp thing. I don't know. Pitfall. I remember that.
It sounds a bit like Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
We had some very depressing games as kids.
So
go on this fascinating adventure, be a pioneer, explore uncharted territory, and try not to die of snake bites or dysentery.
Yeah, right. But I do remember Atari being big, and then in the movie, what was the movie where the boy was like a robot? What was his name? What was that movie called? Was it Ralph or no?
Oh my gosh!
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
He's a robot, and they like capture him and take him to the lab. And, but he gets like adopted by these parents or foster parents or whatever.
Oh my gosh, what was that?
The kid was the Never-Ending Story kid.
Right.
Was it Ralph? That doesn't sound right.
I don't know, but his name stood for.
It was
something.
It was like a. But anyway, where I'm going with that is he sees his foster kid brothers and sisters or whoever like playing this pole position game. And because he's like a robot, he gets on the game. He's like, "Can I try it?" He's never tried it before, and he's like going like so fast the screen can't even like capture what's going on. And I remember watching that going, hey, you can't really do that.
Cheater.
Okay, we got to figure out what that movie's called. I just saw it like recently.
I know.
It was on one of the streaming apps. I was like, I have to see it. I haven't seen it since I was a
Wow,
kid.
I forgot that existed. Well, we if we didn't have the actual toys, we would just make believe. So we played things like Little House on the Prairie with our cousin Gwen. Shout out to Gwen.
Shouts out to Gwen.
She was the best babysitter ever.
That's right. She's in Chattanooga, living life. She was our.
She reminded me on this Facebook post that I made that.
She did. She chimed in.
She was like, on some cousins who shall remain nameless, and she named all of us.
Yeah, we loved playing Little House
Which is
on the
very
Prairie with
Gwen.
her.
We had such a good time with her. But we'd play school. We'd play store. If there was a big calculator, I loved pushing the buttons. I loved playing cashier. We play house. And I wonder why in the hell were we in such a hurry to have chores and have like jobs, like minimum wage jobs?
I don't know. I think we just wanted to seem like we were mature and older and adults.
We wanted to play all grown up.
Yeah. I remember, if you recall, our old house on Fern Street had the big, what was that? It wasn't like a fire pit. It was like a grill.
Yeah.
But it was like a custom, this weird brick looking thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It looked really, I don't know.
It was.
Spooky looking.
It did.
And we played like Wizard of Oz around it and stuff like that. Yeah, imagination ran wild.
By the railroad tracks in the cornfield.
By the cornfield.
Yeah, I do remember a lot of exploring.
And back then, real quick, that side yard we always used to play on seemed like it was humongous.
I know. If
And
you
now
drive by it now.
Now it's so small. It's so small. It's probably 20 yards.
But it was massive when we were little.
Huge.
And so we had so much space to create our own little world.
So much space. So many activities. So much space to do activities.
So much make believe.
Yeah.
We would go fishing without any fishing poles. So like after a hard rain, you grab a stick and some yarn, and that was your fishing pole, and we'd fish in the gutter, and we'd catch leaves, and they were our fish. And we would make, if we were playing house outside, we would cook for everyone. And the dishes always included rather earthy ingredients.
Yeah, earthy ingredients.
So soup would be a mix of mud and rainwater and leaves and some wild onions.
Yeah, all
Shout
the
out
good
to Julie.
stuff.
Shout out to Julie who posted doing the same thing. I was like, we made soup. We cooked.
And I always said that the real dirty gutter water almost looked like chocolate milk. I always thought that as a kid. I was like, I put it in a glass. I'm like, it looks like chocolate milk.
Oh my gosh. And we did this a lot. And I'll talk about this in the next segment, but I put a feeler out on another Facebook group that's just for Generation X. And only one other person said this. And I was like, at least we're not the only ones. Putting on shows for family and friends.
Oh,
We were going to be on Star Search.
How deep should we go with this?
We were going to be on Star Search. We knew.
Yeah, it wasn't even a question. We were like, okay, we have to get ready for this.
We rehearsed and rehearsed.
Guys, let's get to work. So we had to talk about. We can't just let that one slide. Okay. So we would practice.
I've never had any formal dance training.
Can you believe it? Hey, so we had the garage behind the furniture, the detached garage.
Yes.
With the old white wooden doors. And we would practice in there with our Tiffany songs and our the old Madonna songs. And I would have the tennis racket. And I'd be playing the guitar. That was my guitar. So everybody knows my talent was like, I'm playing a tennis racket. So we are going to be on Star Search. Like it's real.
I remember doing that at Mandy and Steven's house, our cousins. So during the summer, we'd go there almost every day and swim.
That's what I was going to say. But we had to find time to practice.
Right.
Because we were all together.
I mean, you couldn't get us out of the pool. But when it came to Star Search rehearsal, we were out. We were in that garage, and we were working hard.
But we were like super serious too. Like if one person like Steven was lagging behind the pool, like Jennifer, somebody would be like, Steven, we gotta go practice for Star Search. He's like, oh, okay. And I think he was like our drummer, so he got his.
No, remember, didn't we do like dances?
Yes.
We were like pairs
We
dances.
were entertainers.
We were
Mary Beth, not just musicians. We were entertainers. So Steven had like the white bucket with the drums, and I always remember having the damn tennis racket.
And usually Mandy and I were left being the singer/dancers.
Ooh la la la, ooh la la. Another School of Rock reference.
The Footloose soundtrack.
Oh my God. Borderline.
That's not on Footloose.
No, I know that. But I'm saying like that's the type of music we were like jamming to back then.
Yeah,
And we used to say, Uncle Freddie's going to fly us to Star Search.
we were sure of it.
Because he had his own plane. Well, Freddie's going to fly us to Star Search. Let's all bring our instruments. Steven, get your bucket. Joe, get your tennis racket.
Looking back, Mom and Dad and, Freddie and Sue and our aunts and uncles, they were very good at convincing, and our grandparents, of course, they were very good at convincing us how great we were. Is that a good or bad thing?
No, Mary Beth. Star Search needed us. Star Search needed us. I don't even want to hear you go there. Star Search needed us, and you know it.
We were special.
Yeah, and so does Ed McMahon. And then they would get stuck watching us do like skits on Christmas.
Yes.
Like we'd all have to do like Christmas Carol skits.
We have a lot to talk about in the holiday season.
Yeah, and we would
ahead.
get so mad if they acted like frustrated.
I know. Like, is that a bored look I see on your
put
face?
your whiskey and Coke down for 2 seconds and watch me be Ebenezer Scrooge, damn it. Yeah, we always had to put on shows and stuff.
That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to think of any toys or games or anything that was off limits. And, at a time when not much was off limits. I mean, these weren't organized play dates. You just rode your bikes around the neighborhood, met up with friends on your own. As long as your parents knew you were in the neighborhood, it was fine. But
And they didn't hear sirens go off, so.
Right. I do remember two things that were off limits. It's funny because we weren't a religious family. We didn't go to church every Sunday. But it's not that we weren't believers, but Dad grew up in a large Catholic family and went to Catholic school. And so by the time he was an adult, he was like, I'm done.
Yeah. He's like, I'll teach you what you need to know. Yeah. I went to school.
I went to mass every day of my life
I had
until I was
nuns
18.
until high school. I'll teach you what you want to know.
So,
but I'm going to make you watch Star Trek on Sundays, damn it.
That was our Sunday tradition.
Yeah.
That was Dad's church.
Yeah.
But off limits, I remember Mom and Dad not wanting us to have anything to do with Garbage Pail Kids. Do you remember those?
I do. And on the bus, like kids would have them, and I would be like, I'd have to look over the seat. I'm like, can I see? Because I couldn't have it at the house.
Right.
Just like, can I take a peek at that?
Right.
It's crazy.
My best friend had them, and I remember seeing them a few times, but they traumatized me.
Yeah. And when I saw other kids like show them to me, I felt like I was participating in some kind of like religious, I don't know.
Satanic.
Yeah. Like I felt like I was wearing like a robe and like with the hood over my head.
These cards are all characters. They're the devil's children.
Dum, 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 dum.
It was weird. I remembered I wasn't amused by pictures of similar Cabbage Patch dolls. Like they eventually got sued. They had to make the characters look less and less like actual Cabbage Patch Kids. But I didn't like to see Cabbage Patch Kids with like snot coming out of their nose and creating like a web.
And hanging out of a garbage can with like a lettuce and stuff coming out, like old food and stuff.
There's one who's just had his head chopped off in the guillotine.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to see those.
Yeah, it wasn't wholesome and pure.
It didn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
And I don't remember being upset that they were kind of outlawed in our house, but I do remember it created intrigue for me. So when I had the opportunity to see them, of course I looked, and I was like, I was sorry I did.
Yeah, all the hoodlums had the Garbage Pail Kids.
Hoodlums had those.
Yeah, all the 8-year-old smokers had the Garbage Pail Kids. all the young John Benders had Garbage Pail Kids. Hey, John Bender probably had Garbage Pail Kids.
John Bender had him, and he was dealing them at school.
And the cards had like they had like the narratives, or like they had that character information. Like you'd read it in like the snotty character, the slimy character. Yeah, it always had like a story about each character.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah,
thanks for not bringing those into our home. Yeah. And the other thing I remember off limits was the Ouija board.
That always scared me.
First of all, I had to look up the right pronunciation because I know it's spelled Ouija. And I was like, growing up, we always heard it called Ouija, and why that pronunciation? It turns out in the 1920s, when they became a bit popular, it became like a verb. Mm-hmm. So people would say Ouija-ing, and then that became Ouijing, and that became Ouija.
Huh.
So,
and I don't remember many people having that. around us when I was a kid.
I remember one. I remember being at a slumber party where somebody brought it out.
So what was you had like inside, what were you feeling tense?
Oh,
Did you feel like you were doing something wrong?
I did. It felt wrong and it felt scary.
You felt dirty?
I felt scary. Like it just felt like we were summoning all the powers of hell to come descend upon us.
Yeah.
And I was so uncomfortable with it, but I was one of the youngest because back then, and this is embarrassing to think about, but when your older sister is invited to a slumber party, the younger sister has to go. I guess as a way to get, I guess mom and dad figured out a way to get alone time or a date night.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. But.
So there were a couple of slumber parties that I had to tag along. And so this would be one of them. And as one of the youngest there, I'm not going to be like, I don't want to.
Yeah, you can't be lame.
I can't be lame.
Yeah.
Peer pressure.
Yeah.
So I did sit in on a couple of seances, if you will.
Seances.
And of course, there were always the girls who were trying to convince you that it was real. And I'm not moving it. I'm not moving it.
Oh, so annoying.
Look, bitch, you're lying. I wish I would have had the balls.
Yeah, right.
At that age to be like, you're lying. Can we watch a movie?
Right.
Let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some interesting feedback that I got from my Facebook inquiry about this topic. And then we're going to talk about just how in the world we managed to survive.
I don't even know how we're here.
I don't either.
Okay. Mary Beth, I want to tell a funny story.
Please do.
May I? We were talking about toys that were forbidden. Do you know that I actually brought a sword to school?
I didn't know you owned a sword. How did that happen?
It was a He-Man sword.
Okay.
Okay. And it was in the little shielding thing that you put the swords in. Don't know what those are called.
Sheath?
Yeah, sure. There you go. So we had show and tell. Mrs. Bailey was my kindergarten teacher. And I brought my He-Man sword in. And we got around to where it was like she was calling on kids to show their show and tell things. And she got to me and I pulled out my sword. I pulled it out of the sheath. And she looked at me. She goes, Joe, we are not allowed to have those kind of toy weapons in this classroom for show and tell.
Oh my God, did it crush your soul?
Yeah, she said that right in front of everybody. And I embarrassed easily as a kid.
Yeah.
And I was always kind of quiet for the most part. And when she said that, I was like,
shrunk in your seat.
I did the Donald Duck. I started sliding out of my seat. I was like, yeah, I can go die now. Can you excuse me? Can I get a bathroom pass?
How embarrassing.
Yeah, she said that right in front of the whole class. I never forgot that. I even brought like the shield with it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And she did not appreciate the sword at show and tell. The fake sword, the toy sword. So while it wasn't forbidden at the house, it certainly was forbidden in Mrs. Bailey's kindergarten class.
You got scolded.
Yeah, she didn't appreciate that.
And then everybody else brings their son. Great, wonderful, Joe.
Yeah, and she could have just been like, okay, and like let me do it, and then to the side, like being like, hey, we don't do
don't bring that
toy
anymore.
weapons and stuff. But no, she had to stop me
in front of everybody.
in front of everybody.
Call you out.
Oh my gosh,
That does not surprise me.
I mean, I'm still traumatized by it. 39 years later. Thanks, Mrs. Bailey.
Are you plotting your revenge?
Yeah, I tell you what, it made me look at her and talk to her differently as an adult if I'd see her out in town. I'll tell you what, if I saw her at the grocery store and she said, hey, Joe, I'm like,
You're dead to me.
Hey, Miss Bailey.
I'm going to drive that sword
Yeah.
right through
or
your
I wouldn't even
face.
say, hey, I just go, Miss Bailey.
Madam.
Yeah, madam.
Okay. So I'm in a group. It's just called Gen X on Facebook. And every day people post all kinds of memes and stuff. They don't let you post links to anything. Like you can post pictures and things like that, but you can't link to a website or anything like that because I've made attempts in the past to put our podcast out there because it's the perfect audience for it.
Oh, but Mary Beth. But do they post that a relationship status, or do they post that they need prayers but don't ask them questions?
Hey, can we just say, like the day after our Facebook episode dropped, I had to screenshot a Facebook post from a mutual friend that said exactly what we were making fun of.
You did.
I need prayers, please. Don't ask any questions.
Yeah, it was like very emphatic. Like, don't fucking ask questions, damn it. Okay, sorry.
I mean, not to laugh at the person's situation, obviously, but
I'll be.
the post
Okay.
is, yeah.
So I assume the group didn't do that, but I was just poking fun at it.
No, but so you can share links in the comments. So anytime that someone posted something that was relevant to like a movie in our movies episode that we talked about, anything that one of our episodes, I would throw it in the link, throw the link in the comments. Well, for this episode, I wanted to really put some feelers out. I wanted to see what everyone else was doing because I don't want to just live in a bubble when we talk about these things, about our own experiences. And so one thing I did learn is that we are not alone. Lots and lots of Star Wars like Star Wars action figures, which like I said, we were a little too young for, but lots of bike riding, exploring the woods and the creeks and that sort of thing. So I managed to just pose the question, what did you guys, 80s kids, what'd you do for fun? Toys, games, activities, places you'd like to go. And then I put our next episode for our podcast is about this, and I'd like to get some feedback. And I put link in the comments. So I linked our podcast. And right off the bat, I want to give a little shout out to the first person. I think it was the first person to hop on the thread and offer some comments. And he said, I just subscribed. And I was like,
Nice.
Awesome. Chris Jacobson, if you're listening, thanks, buddy.
Shouts out, Chris.
So I got all kinds of stuff. So the most common, riding bikes with friends around the neighborhood, kickball. Kickball was a good one.
Oh, kickball.
I love kickball because you didn't have to really be athletic. You just had to kick it as hard as you could.
Oh, I have a kickball story.
Okay.
But should I let you keep going? Or?
Tell your truth. Let it out.
Well, to speak my truth, we had a cul-de-sac kickball game that I'm sure you were part of, and all the surrounding kids in the cul-de-sac played. Dad, the neighbor's dad, so the adults were playing, and sorry to tell the story, Dad. So it was like June or July. It was like the heat of summer.
Sure.
Dad had that old. Okay, so you remember the old Florida souvenir cups that were like this tall, and they had the handles.
Sure,
And they
yeah.
were like orange, and it would be like Jacksonville or whatever. Dad had that on top of one of the neighbor's brick mailboxes. We had those big, thick brick mailboxes. And I think Dad was like kicking or rolling or something, and I was so thirsty. And it was like July. I was sweating.
Oh, no.
I was like breaking the action. I was like, I'll be right back. I ran over there and grabbed Dad's souvenir cup. Thought it was Coke.
Yeah.
Didn't notice that the bubbles would stayed on the top. Very bad. I took the biggest freaking swig of that drink you could possibly take. I never stopped. I was like, I took the cup off my mouth and I was like, ugh. I was like, what is that? And our mom was like, yeah, that's not for you.
Okay. That is funny because I think every kid in our generation has I accidentally drank beer story.
Yeah, our mom was like, that's for your father.
Oh my God. Do you remember the family gathering? We were even younger, and this was on Fern Street. And we had a lot of smokers in the family. And what they would do is they would take the backwash of their beer can, and they would use it as an ashtray when they were done, and they'd open another beer, right? Mm-hmm. So our cousin Mandy, real little, took a big swig of, I think, Uncle Roy's Michelob. Mm-hmm. It was full of cigarettes.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no.
She cried. Everyone was like, oh, honey.
Oh, no.
Like, not that she grabbed a can of beer to take a drink at like 5 years old, but that she had a mouthful of cigarette butts.
Oh, no. That's awful.
No, beer-soaked cigarette butts. You ask her about that. I bet you she remembers for all time.
Man, I really took away from the actual activity of kickball.
Sorry. No, that just reminded me of that story. I'll never forget it. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. Poor girl.
But just those activities like brought about other funny stories and stuff. It was so fun. And I sat there. I'm telling you, when I say I gulped that damn thing, I gulped it.
And now it's quite refreshing, is it not?
Right. Sorry, Dad.
As a kid, you're like, what is that? Since when did Pabst Blue Ribbon change their flavor? Man. Okay, so, kickball. A lot of other sports were mentioned, baseball, football. Mm-hmm. roller skating. I had roller skates. I was in my driveway making up routines, just like my friend Carmen. We had our boom box and we were doing roller skating routines in our driveways. Building forts was a big one, especially with our sleeping bags. I remember building forts. Building things with Legos. Legos were big.
Yep. In Mrs. Bailey's same class, Legos was the big thing. Like we raced to the back shelf to grab the Legos. Like whoever get it first got to play with it.
Did she ever scold you for pushing kids
I'm
out
sure
of the way?
she did because of the damn sword incident. Because I was the only one that brought weaponry in the classroom at that age. So listen,
my God.
yeah,
Another big one, hide and seek. You didn't have to have it. It required no tools of any kind, just hide and seek, playing in the woods or the creek, like I said. And then somebody said, and of course, CB tag. Now I'm going to give this guy a shout out too, and I don't want to mispronounce his last name, but Jeff Bolter. This was great. Oh, I said, I've got to ask, what is CB tag? I'm probably going to hate myself when you tell me what it is. Basically, he said, so he was in a small town, and he was like, if you grew up in the small town with a family of truck drivers and lived on a farm, like you had a CB radio. I was like, I'm thinking to myself, oh, CBs, I know what those are. Okay, gotcha. But CB tag, and he couldn't remember if they made it up or if this is like a thing, but I had never heard of it. So they were driving age, and he said everybody had a CB radio, and they would play hide and seek from their cars with the CB around town. So whoever was the seeker, you'd have to give them clues, I guess like landmarks or things like that, to find you. And you just be like hiding out in your car.
That's
How
like
fun.
That's next level.
That
hide and
is
seek.
next level. I was like, and then he told me, I was like, that sounds like so much fun. He told me he comes from a family of truck drivers and he himself is a truck driver. And so CBs were a big thing. And I was like, let me tell you about CBs.
Yeah.
Joe, can we talk about CBs?
Mary Beth, CBs, as you know, were a big thing in our family.
I wish we had CB tag. That sounded amazing.
Yeah. So CBs. So how the whole connection with CBs started was we would most of the family vacations we would go on as kids were car trips, like road trips.
To Florida, because that's where we had some family there.
There was one we did. We went to Williamsburg, Colonial Williamsburg. Then we did the Gettysburg, Washington, D.C., that kind of trip.
Yes.
So Dad, Mr. Clark Griswold, adventurous one
Extraordinaire.
that he is, he's like, let's get CBs and let's talk on the way there.
Dad is Clark Griswold.
Because...
Except more capable.
More capable. But this was because, we didn't have cell phones. So nowadays, if you take a road trip, if you need to get a hold of somebody, like while you're driving, you just call a cell phone.
Well, we always traveled with Grandma and Grandpa.
Right.
So we had to keep in touch in case we got, lost.
So the grandfather that thought it was a good idea to walk a Care Bear bike into the living room and give me for Christmas was the one that would go on vacations with us. And as I got older, I would drive his car, and then Dad would drive his car. And it was so cool. Like, it was such an exciting thing when Grandma and Grandpa would come to the house to meet us to leave.
Yes.
And everybody would pack up the cars. You'd put your pillows in the car in the back seat. You're trying to get all comfortable. And Dad's like, all right, let's test the CBs. So that was like a 20 or 30-minute process.
Yes,
we could have already been in Shepherdsville by the time, And so Dad, we put the antennas on top of the car. We had to make sure those stuck right. We had to make sure the wiring was going in such a way where it was kind of away from the pillows and the comfy spots. And then we had to test the channels. Mm-hmm. And Dad just kind of went overboard with it. He had so much fun with it. Like, we literally, as soon as we get in the car, we'd get 20 feet down the road. We'd start clicking. Yeah, copy that? You there? Hey, good buddy.
Hey, we're out of the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm turning right. So that became like tradition. It became lore in our family. And
We
then
did that for every vacation.
And then we kicked it up a notch.
Oh, yes.
On one trip. We kicked it up a notch, and I would have my grandmother in the back seat laughing so hard we had to stop and let her go to the bathroom.
And I think what triggered this is, didn't we have some interference?
We had some interference. So if you've been around a CB before, you can be like on a busy expressway, especially like in that Tennessee area where you're kind of like in the cliff kind of hilly area.
Sure.
And there's all kinds of like semis, and there's like 4 or 5 lanes, and it's pretty hopping. And we're having this conversation on a channel that we had been, pretty smooth. I mean, you could hear each other the whole trip, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, right? And Dad would click his CB and be like, Joe, is that you? And then I'd be like, yeah, it's a Mamie. So, so that's all we heard for like miles and miles. And, you know, we'd stop at the gas station. We'd have to like redo the channels, but like that stuck. So for the rest of the trip, even if it was like a channel that we were both on, that we could both hear each other, there was no background interference. Every once in a while, Dad would start asking me a question or talking to me, and I would jokingly be like, copy that. But then, okay, so so I'm giving you like the phases of it.
Right. And also, just to interject, we could play, driving games.
Right, we did like the alphabet games yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I took it up another notch. It became copy. Then it became sometimes we would hear interference, and it would have like this. I don't know what would you call it, like
a strange echo.
It was like almost like an alien. I don't know a galactic type of. It was like an echo. It was like they would be like. And it would just keep going. And then we're like, what in the hell is that? So then your boy took it from that. And then we started like talking to Dad regularly, like, let's go about, I think exit 3A's got a Shoney's, because Dad was big on Shoney. I think exit 3A's got.
That got abbreviated to like, hey, we're going to stop in the next 5 minutes. Wah, wah.
Wah. Yeah, then we wouldn't even do the frequency. Like
right.
we would just say, wah. Hey, Dad, I think there's a gas station over here. And I think Grandpa, Fred was always big on the gas price.
Right.
So like if Dad picked one that was 107 and Grandpa saw one that was 106, we fucking stopped at the 106. And so I'd be like, Dad's like, oh, this exit's got one that's at 107. I go, but I think Grandpa found one at 106. Wah. And we did that for years and years.
But the trucker talk. The trucker voice.
Oh, yeah.
That became a thing.
Yeah. I started doing the trucker voice. I did the frequency thing, but then I started doing the going down to exit 6. I think there's a country ham breakfast place. The gas station got some Zippos, some taquitos. I think they got the L8s, maybe some Yahoos. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Whatever that chocolate drink was. That was where that was born.
I want to get some of them onion sticks.
Onion sticks? I think they got them fried and fried and them chicken wings. You can get those single slices of pizza. You know them bigger slices.
I can't take.
Yeah.
I can't take.
I think I'm gonna go get me a pack of hot fries.
Yeah,
20 ounce of Pepsi, hot fry. And those snowball Debbie cakes. Wah. And he had to finish it with wah. And I'll tell you what, Dad would like purposely, because you couldn't hear the other end unless they had the thing pressed, and Dad would purposely press it so we could hear him laughing. Dad, I'd be like, you need to be careful because you're gonna wreck.
God.
And we had such fun with that.
Well, when that guy dropped that comment and told me that story, I told him a little bit about that, and it was good times.
Well,
like, CBs.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it, but I'll wrap it up. But like, we got to the point where if we did hear other truckers in the conversation, the channel, I would get on there and start talking like that to them. And they'd be like, one time I did it, and I was like, "We're gonna go down there too. You keep giving us the 10-4 and the 411 and the whatever the hell that codes were, the 411 and the 322 or whatever." And we started doing the voices, and you could hear them in the background. They go, "What the hell is he trying to say? I don't think he knows what he's doing." I just started yelling out codes. We got that 987 and the 768. Did you guys not see that? Oh, wah. Grandpa Fred would be dying laughing, and I'd have the CB on my leg because I was driving, and I would always used to see Grandpa's arm, like his hand. It would make it, because he was like, you could tell he was like noodling on this really good idea.
Yes.
And then his hand would slowly come over and grab it.
Yeah.
And I would see his hand by my leg. I'm like, what are you doing? And he'd grab it and he'd start talking. Oh, he'd say some of the funniest stuff.
And can I get a double points? Because we'd play games. And if
double points.
that was your other CB thing.
Yeah.
If you got points for whatever game we were playing, Joe would come on. Because I would always be in Mom and Dad's car with them. And I could hear double points.
Okay, so the history behind that is,
yes.
So if it was like a name game, so if you started with A, one car had to say Muhammad Ali or something, whatever. And then you get to B and so on and so forth. If you said somebody's name that had the same letter in the first and last name, you got double points. So like Mickey Mouse. If that was a classic one we always used to say. We get so excited if we got to end, we're like, ooh, Mickey Mouse. Or Marilyn Monroe.
And then you'd say,
double points.
just like that.
And then and I don't know what made me say it that way, but I just said it that way. And Grandma was in the back seat going,
I can hear her laughter.
She go, say it again. Say it again. Tell him double points.
Grandpa passed away in 2014. Grandma passed away just 2 summers ago, and it still feels like yesterday. I can hear her laughter when Grandma got going.
Yeah, she did. She'd be peeing her pants back. She said, do the double points thing.
To get her going.
But then she would be back there critiquing Grandpa's answers. And Grandpa one time he turned around and goes, Mommy, why you always got to make me feel so stupid? So that was always
that became a running joke.
That became a running joke.
Oh my God. Yeah. And the funny thing is, just to wrap this part up, we still quote these things from these trips.
To this day. So CB's
why do you gotta make me feel so stupid?
Yeah, why make me feel so stupid? Well, but so that, just that one thing you said, CB's took us down that road.
It's
just a memory lane.
So I appreciated that
I'd love to do a CB trip again.
Jeff, that would be great. Well, then I got this one comment from a guy named Russ Hayes. I told him I was going to give
Russ.
I
already like him.
I already like him. I told him I was going to give him some credit here because I could sense his humor. So first he says, mostly making up our own stupid games and playing them to win stupid prizes. One we got the entire neighborhood in on was where we split into 2 groups and pretended to shoot each other whilst we ran around and hid.
Please tell me he put whilst.
He did whilst.
I like Russ.
I know. I liked him immediately.
I like Russ.
So then I responded, and I said something like, that sounds very familiar. And I said, isn't it crazy now that kids, they don't just not play games like that, but they have, active shooter drills in school. They have no idea, what kind of childhood we had. And so he comes back with, well, I don't know about you, but we had drills for basically every possible and unlikely scenario other than armed intruders. Intruders.
Right. That's the funny part.
He said the answer was always to hide under the desk, though. Tornado, hide under your desk. Bombs, hide under your desk. Fire, hide under your desk. Flood, hide under your desk. Something under your desk, hide under your desk.
Russell, we need to get Russell on here. His new nickname is Russell the Love Muscle. Hey, he's absolutely right. They would make every lesson like it was unique. Guys, now we're going to do an earthquake drill, and we're going to show you what you got to do for this one. Okay, now listen. I want you to be ready.
But it continues.
Wait for it. Under the desk.
Under the desk. Grab that book.
Yeah, tsunami's coming, but guys, wait. I'm going to show you something different. Get under your desk.
So it kept going. I said, which begs the question, why isn't our military armed with desks? Why do I not keep more desks in my home? How could I not forget? Or how could I forget the safest place on earth? And he says, you mean you don't keep a couple desks in your attic? Better hope space aliens don't attack. I just lost it. I lost it. And then at one point, because this thread got hundreds of comments and I interacted with just about every one of them. And I was having a good time. And I circled back to his comment and I was like, it's a half hour later, I'm still laughing.
Oh my gosh.
It just tickled me. I thought it was so
Mary
funny.
Beth, I'm going to need you to live on that page. And I'm going to need you to get Russell to contact me. So everybody just needs desks. Get your desk.
Something under your desk? Get under the desk.
That's awesome.
Good times.
That is great.
And so there was another one, finally, that was on my own Facebook profile. Someone chimed in. It was actually Josh's cousin, Kelsey. She reminded me of a great toy that I think you'll remember fondly. Can we please talk about Bop It?
Bop it. Pull it.
Spank
smell
it. Slap it.
Yeah.
Beat it.
Yeah.
Punch it.
And it was like... Hey, it was like Ross's piano. It was his sound poems.
It was a soundscape.
I just want to show you. Yeah.
Now we were a little older. I remember we were like early teenagers.
Man, I was so good at that game.
And Joe mastered the Bop It.
I'm sensing a trend here. Can you repeat that again for everybody?
Joe mastered Bop It.
I was master at Galaga. Don't want to hear any different. I scored over like 1 million points in Galaga. Bop It. I don't know what it was, but I could just. It's like I could like anticipate.
Yeah, you had to hold
it like a wheel.
You had to hold it like steering wheel.
Yeah,
like a bike.
Yeah, like a bike.
Yeah, like a bike. And then so one end you pulled, one end you like smacked
it, and then you hit the middle.
You hit the middle.
But it would tell you.
You would twist it.
But you had to do it in a certain amount of time.
So it was kind of like Simon Says. You had to follow, but then it would get faster and faster and faster and faster.
But not fast enough for me. Let's be clear. Not fast enough for Joe.
Tell us why, Joe. How good did you get?
Because I'm awesome. How what?
Do you remember what your record was?
I don't remember.
You had it going for like 15 minutes.
I don't doubt that.
What's so funny is we were in one room. I think we were in Mom and Dad's bedroom. And out of nowhere, we hear the Bop It coming down the hall. You walk in with the Bop It in your hands, and it's still going, and it's going at warp speed, like Spaceballs, ludicrous speed, and you're looking at us going, ah!
It was like the kid. It was like the robot on pole position.
You were like a robot. Yeah. You couldn't stop, and you couldn't mess up.
Let's move it to ludicrous speed.
The Bop It.
I think I remember doing that. I was like, I can't miss.
You were so impressed with yourself. The Bop It. Oh my God, that was fun. But what we really enjoyed was just making fun of what it was called and the things it was saying. So it was like, Dad made his own song eventually. He was like, bop it, spank it, smack it. I mean, it was just. I thought you'd get a kick out of the Bop It.
That is awesome.
That was
hey,
fun.
The movie, Daryl.
It's all coming back to me.
It just hit me.
It's all coming back now. Now what?
Daryl. It had the guy from SNL and he was in that parody. Gosh dang it! The dad. He was in the old SNL like early mid '80s, and he was in that Spinal Tap group, and he was in Laverne and Shirley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the dad and Daryl. Daryl.
I remember now.
Yeah.
And didn't Daryl stand for something?
Yes, it was like D.A. It
Yeah.
standed for data. Yeah,
Something-
same. Thank you. Fist bump. Thank you.
Fist bump. All right, so
Where were we?
well, that was it for the feedback. I mean, it seemed like we all lived the very same childhood. But it was great to get everybody's
I love that you found that
comments.
page. I think that's really right up our alley. That's our
is.
speed. Sounds like the people are the same types,
Yeah.
they're of the same ilk.
They are, and every single day, multiple times a day, I'll see posts on Gen X that just speak to my heart and just make me LOL. And so, and I think the recent bumps that we've had in downloads in the few days since that post,
Yeah, I'm
was
really
on there.
liking that Russ guy.
Yeah, and again, Chris for being the
Yep,
first
Chris
one to
being the first one.
subscribe without knowing us, without even listening. He just went ahead
Gave
and
it a
subscribed.
chance.
I hope that he continues to listen, Chris, and Jeff with the CB that took us
That's
down a
awesome.
great memory lane. But we're gonna wrap it up with a segment I like to call "I Shouldn't Be Alive," Gen X edition. And if you can remember Jaws, one of the best scenes in Jaws is the night before all the action happens, when they're on the Orca and the three of them are comparing battle scars from their various adventures, whether it was like shark attacks or, one of them's a cop. And so we're going to share some of our battle wounds that we still have to this day.
Sounds dangerous. Count me in.
Hey, we had a very dangerous childhood.
That's right. Because
So-
our parents didn't know where we were.
And even when we were around, hey, no sunscreen, no helmets or elbow pads or knee pads when we rode bikes.
And then if you did act like you were hurt, if you acted like you were hurt, just for a split second, Dad would say, quit being a wuss.
The girls were treated a little more kindly, but even then, it was like, you're all right.
I don't want to talk about it. That's all I heard as a kid. Don't be a wuss. Quit being a wuss.
Or rub some dirt in it.
Yeah, Dad just always said, quit being a wuss. And I'd be like, I'm not a wuss.
He'd be turned into social services.
That's right.
Okay, so
Him and his kickball drinks. His illegal kickball drinks.
letting his son chug his beer.
Yeah, as he's playing kickball with other 9-year-olds. There you go, Dad.
Okay. Yeah. So another thing that was dangerous, we would sit on Dad's lap or Uncle Roy or Grandpa Fred. We would sit on their lap behind the wheel. I'm talking 5, 6, 7 years old driving. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, Dad used to do that. So Dad, at one point sold insurance, and we were coming home, and we got about a block or two away from the house, and I'll never forget it. He kind of got in that little industrial area behind the old Job's Daughters building, and he stopped and he goes, "Come here." I was like, "What?" I was 5, and he had that old Nissan with the stick shift. He said, "Get on my lap. You want to drive home?" Yeah, I got on his lap, and I think he did the steering. I think, but yeah, I felt so powerful.
I know.
I was like, "Wow, I'm doing it."
That was so fun.
And all I was doing was just moving the wheel, but Dad was doing all the other stuff. But
Right.
but he made me, I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
Like he just in that split second, he made it a lifelong memory. Like I'll never forget that.
Isn't that crazy? Same for me. I remember doing that. It was so fun, but very dangerous.
Very dangerous. But I will say, how ironic is it that when I got to be 15 and I was almost 16, it was like 3 weeks from being 16. I said, "Hey, Dad, can I pull our car into the garage?" And he said, "No, wait till you're 16." I looked at him. I said,
Are you nuts?
I seem to remember. Yeah.
Playgrounds, of course, were a death trap.
Oh God.
So I follow this guy on TikTok, and he's got this 80s playlist, and it's nothing but things from our childhood that were actually awful, and it's hilarious. His name's Chris Biggs, I think. So funny. And I love that he called like the Simon game. He called it the Devil's Disc. Because it made you feel stupid and slow because you couldn't follow along.
But you know what? That game was so cool because it lit up. It's so
It
cool.
was so
man.
cool, but if you couldn't do it, you just felt like a failure.
I know, but it was so cool.
And then he talks about games like Operation, where you felt like everything was on the line, and if you screwed up, your uncle was gonna die, and you were gonna get electrocuted as well.
You're gonna get sued for medical malpractice.
And what was that game? It wasn't Boggle. It was a game where it was timed, and everything would like pop out, like Perfection or something. There was a game that you were on a timer and you had to do.
Yeah, no, I probably would have said Bob.
And all the pieces would just like pop
Yeah, I
up if you
remember.
didn't do it in time.
Gosh dang it.
Like, how do we not all live on anxiety medication now from that kind of
What about Hungry Hippos?
Right.
Oh, me and my friend Brandon used to play the hell out of that game.
like just so
And that was dangerous too, because I mean you were like smacking it so hard, like the people's hands were getting in the way and stuff.
No.
But back, I think, do you remember our grandma on Dad's side had Simon? So that was always one of the first things we would go to when we got there. Where's your Simon game?
And that is also where we learned to play checkers.
Yep. That's awesome.
That was another game we like to play. And so yeah. But other things he referred to, like on the playground, I forget what he called the merry-go-round, which everybody knows, an old rusty merry-go-round that went. He was like, it went fast enough to split your DNA.
But that's the one that had the little handles and you just went around like real fast in circles.
Yeah, and you could like fall off of it, get hit in traffic.
Listen, once you got going, if you didn't hold on, you were done. Like you went flying.
You would break an arm if you let go.
Oh, but you know what? Back then, we needed the wind in our hair.
Hey, that's true.
We needed that rush, that adrenaline rush.
And remember, if you weren't on in time, you get knocked the fuck over.
And that was one of the most like stressful parts of that whole thing. Is like, I better get this right. I better get this shit right. Like I can't fuck this one up. I better get on there cleanly and quickly.
That was a death carousel.
Oh, what about keep
and
going.
then he
You probably
called,
gotta bring it up.
and I feel this. I felt very seen when he said this one. The seesaw is Satan's tongue.
Now wait, that's a teeter-totter? Is it the same thing?
Yeah, a teeter-totter. So like, I remember being in 5th grade. So my first battle scar. 5th grade not 5th grade. I was 5 years old in kindergarten. For whatever reason, I was sort of matched to play with this other kid who, at the time, was quite fluffier than I was. And when you're on a teeter-totter, if the weight is not balanced,
If it's not evenly distributed.
the lighter child is in danger because the fluffier kid landed hard.
Much safer for the fluffier kid, but listen.
But what did I do? I went forward and face planted into Satan's tongue.
Mary Beth went catapulted into the air and decapitated every passerby.
Those things were so dangerous.
Yeah, because it's not like you were strapped in.
Right. So I just had this tiny little bar to hold on to. And so when he lands hard on the concrete, I go forward and bust my
Yeah,
lip.
there was no harness. There was
No.
no strapping
No.
in. And you would feel your bottom lift up off the seat. You're like, wow, this is
And I'm
going to
holding
get...
on the bar, so there's no way to brace
this
myself.
is going to be dangerous.
So that was my first one. Yeah, I got a busted lip.
Oh, wow.
That was kindergarten.
That is awesome.
Do you want to go in like back and forth, or do you want me to just name all of mine? Yours are pretty epic, so maybe I should just get all mine out.
Okay.
Because I don't think I could match pitch with you.
Okay. How about that?
Okay, so
I was just being nice.
I lost my 2 front teeth on that big hill down our street. We were riding our bikes and we were not pedaling because it was such a steep hill. So we were trying to go fast without pedaling, and then I got toward the end of the hill and was so fast that my bike sort of crash, where I was just like swerve, 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 face plant into the concrete. Cried all the way down the street to the house I guess I swallowed them because I never found them. And just blood all down. My bike's left in the middle of the road.
Sounds appetizing. Tell me more.
It was...
I think I remember this.
I still can see the concrete coming at my face.
Yeah, I think I remember this.
Yeah.
I think I remember the scream. I think I was in the yard, playing in the yard. And it's like the whole block just stopped.
Yeah.
In horror, like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. It was a pretty dramatic
Probably
scene.
not like... that hill's probably not as steep as we think now. Like,
I know, in my mind, it's
over there,
epic.
it's probably like pretty level.
Right.
But as a
Right.
kid, it was like you were going down the most steep, like roller coaster or something.
It's the hill we drive that to get to the ballpark.
Oh,
now.
I know what hill it is.
And it's not. You're right. It's not that steep.
Yeah.
But a little kid on a bike, it is.
But man, if you got to the end there where the railroad tracks hit by our house, and you did the little jump.
It was just before the railroad tracks where I face planted.
Man.
And I relive, like I said, the concrete coming. Like, I didn't fall to the concrete. It came to me.
Yeah.
And it smashed as hard as it could. So I lost my 2 front teeth. I have a cut. I was even younger on this one. I have a cut or a scar under my eye, under my right eye.
I don't remember that.
It's very faint, but if you look up close, you can actually see it. This was from when we lived in North Dakota because our dad was in the Air Force, and so we traveled. And so I must have been 2, 3. So it is probably my earliest memory. And Jen had this toy, and I asked her what it was, and she couldn't remember, but it was like some cube-shaped or just like cylindrical kind of heavy plastic ball of some kind or cube that was attached to a long string. And you would put the strings through the holes or whatever. And she was... what do you call it? She was like holding onto the string and just like she was going to lasso something with this toy, and hit me right in the face on accident. And so when you bleed from the face, it's pretty profuse. And so my mom panicked. Dad said that he was out doing yard work or something, and she's carrying me on the front steps going, Joe, Joe. and I got a little, what do they call, butterfly stitch, because it ultimately was not a big.
I don't remember that.
You weren't born, I don't think.
Well, if you were 2 or 3, I was.
Oh, yeah, you must have been. Maybe you weren't born yet. I need to investigate this memory. It could be earlier than I thought. But
And wait. Jennifer doesn't remember something. It's like a running joke in our family that
she doesn't. I know, right? She doesn't remember the name of this toy. But if we were, I don't think you were ever in North Dakota, so you may not.
I
have been
was.
born.
I was.
Oh,
Mom
you
and
were?
Dad said I was a year old.
Oh, right. Okay.
I remember it fondly.
Yeah. So that's one. So I have a scar under my eye. I have a long scar on the top of my left thigh from a rusty slide on a swing set. And so playgrounds are very soft now. Even the ground, like they put the special padding or there might be mulch or something, but no, it was like metal and iron and concrete
And chains.
and rust
Yeah.
and sharp edges. And there was a sharp edge at
Yeah.
the top of this little swing set slide, and it just scraped me all the way down. I should have gotten stitches. The scar was that bad.
Yeah, I can feel it
It's
now.
still there. It's very sexy.
You haven't experienced anything until you've experienced flesh being caught into the chain of a swing.
And how dangerous were the swings? Because we tried to go as high as we could. And if you go too high,
If you try to get up to the crossbar, your life was on the line.
right, you were going to have to Nadia Comaneci your ass out of that swing and survive somehow.
Right.
But remember trying to go under people? So you'd be pushing someone in
yeah.
the front and then try to go under them without dying. How did we make it? And getting pinched in those big chains. Ugh. Okay, so I've got the eye scar. I knocked my 2 front teeth out. I have a cut that left a scar on my thigh. And then I have a scar on my right knee from slip and slide.
I have a slip and slide accident as well.
Well, this one was kind of interesting because it was in our friend's backyard, just a little bit down from our house. Dad was golfing with his best friend, Butch, who happened to be a doctor. So they're on the golf course while this is happening. We're at a friend's party, just a couple houses down. I guess they did not clear underneath this slip and slide because I went down and slid on my knees, and when I got up, my leg had blood all the way down it. Apparently, I had hit a rock underneath it, and it sliced my leg open. And so I think I was 7. And so they called the golf course. They got the guys home. And just like the old time Little House on the Prairie doctor, he
had the
shows
black
up.
bag.
He shows up with his little black medical bag. They put sheets on the kitchen table. They lay me on the kitchen table. And Butch, I'll never forget, I remember it like it was yesterday. Butch sewed me up. Stitches right there in our kitchen. Who does that anymore? Who can tell stories like that
Yeah,
anymore?
there's no house calls anymore.
No house calls. I mean, it was just lucky that they were on the golf course together that
He's
day.
like, Mr. Engel, can you please move your basket of soap, eggs, and bread? We need to get Mary Beth on there quick.
You get on the old rotary phone. Sarah, get me the doctor. Sarah, send the doctor.
Can you please move your lie? Can you please move your candle wax? We need to operate quickly.
Move the lantern. Don't want the oil to get too close to the patient. God. This is why, see, we make jokes like this. This is why our kids ask us, was TV black and white when you were growing up? It's like, how old do you think we are?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so those are my battle scars. How about you?
Well, I feel like because of you ended on the slip and slide, I should start with that one.
Okay.
Man, how ahead of its time was slip and slide?
Man, that was so
so cool. It was so cool, but like you,
And it was convenient because we drank out of the water hose.
It was
so it was right there in your backyard.
Yeah, it was convenient. Obviously, it was easy to transport. And so everybody, we had been swimming at Uncle Fred's house, and somebody was like, "It's time to do slip and slide." Like you always had to announce everything. So then we put the slip and slide like on their side yard in the grass, and you kind of had to stake it or whatever. Got the water going. I was so excited, and I did the same kind of thing. My left thigh, like literally halfway from my kneecap to my hip. It was really bloody, so I must have hit something. And they're like, "Come on, let's take him to the pool house." And Uncle Fred had like that long bench kind of seating. I remember.
Yeah.
He had like a little bathroom. And he had like this real long bench seating, and they sat me on the bench, and they were like looking at it, and looked pretty deep. I mean, even at 5 years old, I was like, "Yeah, that's stitches or something."
Right.
That's not just, hey, let's like wipe it down, and, put a Band-Aid on it.
Band-Aid
Yeah, that was pretty deep. And they took me to the doctor, and to this day I can see the scar, but they put like this paste on it. I don't even know how to really describe it, but it just was some kind of like flesh paste.
Which is weird because I know that they do dissolvable stitches now, and they can even do liquid stitch now.
So this would have been
This
would have been like 84, 85.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can see like this little faint little pasty looking scar on my leg. Yeah, it was like, I call it flesh paste. It was like the same color as your leg. Kind of crazy.
Just a flesh wound.
Yeah, just a flesh wound. So there was that. I got hit in the so right below my lower lip, and then right above my upper lip, I got hit with these 2 little pebble rocks. Like one of my friends, I don't know what we were doing. We were just throwing rocks at each other.
like we do.
Yeah, we were probably playing a game, and they didn't play it the way I told him I wanted him to play it, and he pissed me off, so I probably said something shitty. And anyway, Brandon threw a couple rocks at my face, and I got hit on both spots. You can barely see it because I have facial hair now, There's a
I remember that.
Okay, there's a
You
scar
had
here.
that scar.
Yeah.
You still have it. Yeah, I
no,
see it.
they're there. So then I got same thing. Went to the doctor, and I remember this, but I don't remember why my eyes were closed. But I remember my eyes being closed and hearing the doctor take them out of my lips.
They got cut in your lips?
Yes, I had rocks in there.
Jeez.
And I remember hearing the rocks hit the garbage can.
I do.
Crazy.
Now, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I'll never forget that.
I thought you just, because I don't think I was there when it happened, but I thought you just meant like he threw rocks and it hit you and
Yeah, I had rocks inside my skin and stuff.
was he like right in front of your face, like mashing into your face?
He must have put like his dingo cowboy boot that he used to always wear, his little size 3 dingo cowboy boot on the back of my head. Get in there real good. That's the last time you'll ever play tag that way, Joe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
That's not the way we play here on Upper North Fern Street. Hey, that's not how we play that game up on the hill.
It was up on the hill.
Yeah.
The hill where I lost my teeth. Hey, that's his house? The slip and slide.
Right.
That's where it happened.
Yeah, it's Hell Hill is what we should call it. So there was that injury. But all of that to say, I remember the rocks being thrown in the garbage can. That's crazy. So we mentioned big wheel. So I had a big wheel, and we were on the driveway. We were all playing. It was a pretty big driveway area, and our friend Dougie was riding my big wheel, and I was on the ground. Why I was on the ground, I have no clue. But I was on the ground. My right arm was kind of like just extended out, and he rode the big wheel. I was only like 5, so my arm was itty bitty. It's not massive like it is now, but it's really small. And he rode my big wheel over my right arm and broke it. And I always kind of have this thing where I can straighten it like a little weirdly compared to my left arm.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember that.
That was the big wheel incident. And then one of the more famous incidents in the family.
This has gone down in family lore.
Yeah. So I was infatuated with Superman. Loved it.
As we were.
Had a Superman blanket, Christopher Reeve, like specifically Christopher Reeve Superman.
Yes.
Okay. And so I was very certain that I could fly. You know why? Because I told myself I can do that. And he can, so I can. So
It looked so real.
right. So all I had to do was hold my arms out like he did and just wish it. And I was going to be up off the ground. I had the Superman outfit and the cape.
He did. These were Superman pajamas.
Yes.
From head to toe. Mm-hmm. He's dressed like Superman, cape and all.
So mom and dad had these old like bamboo chairs
Yes.
from like the Philippines or whatever. And so they had the thick bamboo.
Isn't it called rattan?
rattan, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was really thick, I remember.
Yes.
And they had the cushions, but they had like the surrounding parts of it.
Right. You did not want to bump onto the edge.
So it was like one of those, if you can picture it, in the corner of their little living room.
It was a
area.
chair and ottoman combo.
It was a chair and an ottoman. The cushions were like maroon.
Yes.
I pulled the ottoman out so I could jump off the ottoman into the chair was the idea. That's what I was going to do.
That was the idea.
That was the plan. Okay. Hey. It was pretty well thought out, I thought at the time. Just like Superman can like fly onto like Metropolis buildings. I was like, all right, all I got to do is get from this ottoman to that chair.
And then next, it's on to save Lois from the helicopter.
Right. So anyway, I think I probably put Mary Beth's Cabbage Patch doll by the chair, and I was like, that's Lois Lane. So I start on the ottoman, I do the bend, and then I do the extension like I'm diving or flying, and I do the arms out. And you know what? There was no lift off. There was no lift off. It was like in Superman 2 when they try to fly in the Fortress of Solitude. Yes. And they try to jump and they're like, and they fall
They go right down
into the depths of nothing.
Yep.
That's what I did. I thought I was going to lift off and I didn't. And I jump and I go straight down into the little rattan bamboo thick part. And it literally, my front teeth bent so far back
Yes.
that I could see them. So I want you to picture that. So it hit the bottom of the chair, and I opened my mouth.
No, wait a minute. This story is so legendary. I can't believe I haven't heard this part.
Yeah. What degree would that be? My teeth went like straight out. What is that? Is that like 100?
That's a 90 degrees.
Yeah, basically. So when I land, I was like, my mouth was still on the chair and I could see my teeth.
Or would that be 180? Like, would they go down?
Maybe that it was bad and it hurt. Hey, and I remember at that young age thinking, my teeth aren't I'm not supposed to be seeing those that way. I'm not supposed to see those that way.
I'm only supposed to see my teeth in the mirror.
They were like this. I think my scream was like from fright of that. Not so much that it hurt. I was like, damn it. I was like, my teeth are backward. Like, they were almost in my nostril. In fact, they might have been stuck in one of my nostrils. I was like, what the hell?
I'm in pain. I'm in pain.
Yeah. So I had like,
Oh, God.
I had the most extreme buck tooth case that you've ever seen in your life.
And if I understand correctly, they were so jacked up. Your teeth.
No, let's have it, Mary Beth. Hey, just let me have it. Go ahead.
Your teeth didn't grow back for years.
It's not a hard enough story to tell as it is. Just go ahead and give it to me the way you want to, Mary Beth.
Oh my God, I'm in so much pain. This can't be enjoyable for the listener. Just
Okay,
to hear
so
us laugh.
what Mary Beth is making fun of me about is when the teeth got pulled, they didn't grow back until for 2 years.
Oh my goodness, that was so.
Yeah. So I had.
That has to be the longest any kid's gone with no two front teeth.
Yeah, it was. It was. I was in like second grade by the time they grew back.
Oh my gosh.
And then they like barely started growing back. Like just like started sprouting a little bit. But listen, when they did, it was the most joyous occasion I saw those little whites coming through and I was like, yes!
It's happening.
Yes! Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
Did it change at all the way you feel about Superman?
No, I mean, listen, it was
It made him more heroic?
Yeah. I was like, at least I tried. At least I tried.
He really can do things no man can do.
Yeah. So I can remember one other one.
Oh, I thought you were going to end on that one.
Yeah, I probably should have. But so our neighbors at that house had like a 3-wheeler or a 4-wheeler. Sean, Tracy, and for whatever reason they let my little ass get on that thing, and I was 4 or 5. I was real little, and they had like this big tree like right in the middle of their yard. And I was wearing, I'll never forget this because I ended up upside down basically, but I was wearing my Superman sandals. And I was wearing the little Superman sandals that had like the little backs to them. Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So like you could see your feet and your toes, but they had the Superman on the top, like the little logo, and they had the little straps in the back. So,
Pimp.
hey, save some ladies for the rest of us. That's what all the other little OGs were saying on 4 Street. They're like, damn it, Joe's wearing the Superman sandals with the back straps. How the hell am I ever going to get to talk to Lucy?
Oh my God. And I have one as well, but I still see you walk around with a Superman t-shirt. I feel like the clothing is cursed. You better be careful. Yeah. Don't leave the house.
Yeah, so all the little homies hated when I wore the backstrap sandals with the Superman logo on it. So anyway, I walk over there, and it's kind of funny. It's not funny, but I mean, I could have really seriously got hurt. But Sean let me on this ATV, and I'm so little I can't even like touch the pedal things or whatever I'm supposed to touch. And he puts me on there, and I instantly put my hand on the gear shift thing on the handle, and I push it back or I pull it back. And for whatever reason, he thought it was a good idea to have the ATV like pointing at this tree instead of like an open space, which I don't know what it would have been better. Actually, to be in the tree probably helped because I probably would have went to somebody's house or in a car or something. So I pull the handle back and I literally drive right up to the tree trunk, and it flips like backwards.
Oh my gosh!
So it could have landed on me. It could have crushed me.
And it didn't?
It did. So it stays straight up instead of going all the way back.
Oh my
and I
God.
fall backwards off of it. And what makes it funny about this, the reason I mentioned the Superman sandals is because I was on my back. Picture this. I was on my back and my legs, my legs and my feet were up in the air. And I remember looking up going, oh, my Superman sandals. Like, I'm not thinking about what just happened or that I could have been killed. I was like, my Superman sandals.
Man, those are sharp.
Hey, I remember thinking, man, my legs are really taken.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. Wow. So did you suffer any long-term injuries from that one?
No, I didn't. No long-term injuries other than just extreme embarrassment.
Oh my God.
Extreme embarrassment.
Oh. Well, hey, I wouldn't trade those scars for anything. Scars. We wouldn't have the stories
Yeah.
to share.
We wouldn't have all this laughter of this episode.
Man, I was really, I was in stitches. See what I did there?
I was in leg paste. I was in leg paste. I was in left thigh leg paste. Flush colored leg paste.
This was a good one. I hope anybody listening, I hope it made you remember some of your own battle scars and some of your own adventures.
I guarantee you any Gen Xer listening to this, it speaks to them.
I hope
it speaks
so.
to them in some way.
I hope so. We had a one-of-a-kind childhood, that's for sure. And it was worth every bit of blood, sweat, and tears on the playground death trap.
Thanks for letting us live, Mom and Dad.
Thanks. We're survivors.
Yeah, that's right.
I
That's
hope all the other survivors out there will share their stories.
That's right.
Until next time.
See ya.
Peace.